Okay, I think we are live in YouTube now. Okay, so hello everybody. This is the release working group meeting, the last one of June 2024. So first of all, please add yourself to the agenda. The link is in the chat. And first of all, there is any announcements that anyone want to make?
Um, we will have a secret release. I mentioned yesterday, but we have a secret release to next week. So we are working on that. So if you are listening to this call and you never upgraded Node.js, it's time.
Good point.
And that sort of semi-related to that, I noticed this morning, and this is, I guess, more of a build-related thing, but the notarization of macOS is currently, well, was broken, but we believe Ulysses has fixed that now. So, fingers crossed that should all be sorted by the time
Yeah.
of the release. But yeah.
Yeah, let's see. The issue is open anyway, so if you see new issues or whatever, just ping us on the issue or ping us directly on Slack, so we can have a look. That should be fine, hopefully. Crossing fingers. Okay. Any additional announcements? Anything else to comment?
There is just one thing. For the ones that are not aware, we are automating a lot of stuff for secret releases. And it also touches in the how we create releases proposal, regardless if that's a secret or not. It's the same approach. So if you don't use the git node dash dash prepare to create a release proposal, I suggest to do it so you can face some bugs probably and open issues so we can fix it and create an easy way to create proposals.
That's good. First, should we jump to the agenda? Okay. So first topic in the agenda is the issue 1012 from the release repository, which is regarding of the current status of the LTS groups and backporters. Let me put the link on the chat as well. I think originally the question was from Marco, right? If I remember well. Yeah, I think Richard made the last response on that. I was not following the discussion, so
Yeah, maybe skip it to the next meeting.
yeah, we can skip it and see when Marco is in the meeting, so that way we can have a
Yeah, if
better
I
follow-up.
remember, there's general question marks of like we have GitHub teams, and I think it's perhaps not quite clear or been lost as to which teams are like access control lists. Like if you're in this team, you get permissions to do things, and which teams are kind of more sort of notification sort of lists where you ping this team and they can discuss things, but are not necessarily for the release group. We've always had this thing where the majority of people in the working group are releases, but we never wanted to restrict membership of the working group to just releases. So, if we're talking about long-term support releases and policy and like what should be in a long-term support release, well, there's no reason you need to be a releaser to be able to have opinions on that front. And if you're seriously invested in wanting to steer how what Node release policy is, what goes into our releases, all that sort of stuff. We do encourage people to join the working group and not necessarily have to, then sign up to become a releaser. But yeah, some of those teams that we have do grant you access. So, if you're a releaser, that comes with a whole bunch of privileges in terms of, you can get to this release CI, you can get into the private repo to see things. So, yeah, we have other teams like the backporters and LTS teams. So yeah, if you have time, have a look at that and see if you have an opinion on whether those teams are could be streamlined or still necessary. But like I said, we did want to not make it so that the only sort of way of participating was to become a releaser in the working group.
Thanks for the summary, Richard. That was a fair point. So yeah, I think in terms of next actions for us is more or less to read a little bit the issue and see if we have any opinions, right? And see if we can reach that and wait for Marco for the next meeting to see if there is anything that we can discuss to cover more. So next topic in the agenda is the issue 1004, also from the release repository, which is related to the branch rules for non-LTS staging branches, which I think, if I remember well, last time we have a discussion about it was to make this effective. But I think,
I think that was my recollection was, so the status before was that we always had branch protection rules for the staging branches for LTS releases, not for the current release. And, there was a proposal about having rules in place for both of them. And then in the last time we discussed, we said, well, why do we even have a separate rule for current versus this is all related to staging branches, not main. See, Antoine's got his hand up.
Yeah, I know I'm a bit late to this conversation because I wasn't there last time. But I would make the point to not have this kind of rule, and because like for someone like me who is not a releaser, if I want to prepare a release, I need to be able to push to that to those staging branches, right? So if we add that rule, it's going to make onboarding harder. And I think the idea behind having this rule is to avoid someone with write access to make a sneaky backport, I guess. Maybe it would be better addressed by enforcing the use of signatures on those backport commits on those branches. That would be my recommendation. But
okay, I mean, if you want, maybe you could post in the issue. I guess the other scenarios we could add people that want to help prepare releases to the backporters team, because that was in the existing rules to allow backporters to land things on staging branches. And again, that might then fit back into the previous issue as to why we have those teams. But again, I guess that would then be an access control team rather than a one for pinging. But yeah, backporters is an access control list. We've always had that. And then the question was, over time, is the backporters team exactly the same as the releases team? Well, I don't think it needs to be, but again, yeah, let's continue that conversation then in the issue. But it is a good point that if we want to try and help onboard people that do want to become releases, then yeah, being able to prepare releases does involve being able to push to the staging branches. So yeah, we need to take that into account when for this.
Yeah, I was about to add a comment on the issue, but I said I already made it.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so I guess we need to somehow come to it.
We can relink to it in the issue.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. Also, feel free to check it out what I'm taking as a notes of the meeting, because it can be that I don't capture everything, but I'm trying. Okay. So the next one is the issue, if I'm not wrong, is the issue 999, which is related to the onboarding of Antoine. Let me see. I think this has been definitely started, but not very sure if the to-do list is updated.
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
No, hang on. There's a link there to the releases, Tim. So if you, yeah, no, I think we just haven't progressed it. So
I should probably prepare another release because it's been a while.
Okay.
Okay.
I know I opened the issue, but I totally don't have any time to look at anything right now. So please don't count on me to try and champion this.
Okay.
Please, yeah, if you can find anyone to help Antoine, like, let's,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, we can we can find a champion to finalize with I think all the let's see backward bureaucratical work, right? To add you to add on to the teams and to include the keys and so on. So I think for that part, I'm happy to champion the initiative if nobody has the bandwidth right now, because I don't have the bandwidth to do releases at this point, but at least I have a bandwidth for this. But yeah, I'm not, I mean, I'm not going to prepare any release soon, but I think if Antoine is preparing a release, can coordinate with other releaser who is planning to do actually the releases, right? So I think we can split this like in two different pieces, right? If that makes sense. So I make it over complicated. Just on how I explain.
So what I'll say is, I think at this point, personally, I'd be happy, completing the rest of the onboarding for him, given that, there has been a release prepared. This doesn't necessarily mean, you have to do a release right now. And, if you want to prepare another release without, going through the whole thing, that you can still do that. I mean, given you're a TSC member, Antoine's a TSC member as well, a lot of the things on that list about access, I mean, not so much some of the release stuff doesn't have access to, but I mean, things like the security release team, there's going to be no additional visibility to things, given him that would over the TSC visibility. So I'm comfortable that, if we want to just add him to the lists and give him the access, we can do that in parallel with, preparing another release. That's what you're comfortable doing, Antoine. Or equally, if you prefer to wait until you've done that, we can do that. I'm just saying that either way, I don't mind what we do here. I'm happy that, when you're happy that, you can be added to the releases, Paul, and
I'm very fine waiting. Like I said, it's been a while since I prepared a release, and I probably have forgotten most things.
Well, there's your opportunity to try Raphael, the the command that Raphael was asking us to try earlier.
Yeah, and report backs.
Okay, good. Sounds like we have a clear path to go. So next topic in the agenda is the issue 965, which is the one related to the PGP keys verification, which currently has, if I remember well, like two minor things to discuss. I think was with Juan and probably with Rui, and we discussed that on Slack time ago, so I need to catch up on that discussion. But yeah, I think we can basically remove it from the agenda for now because I added on the time ago for visibility, but I mean, visibility was achieved already, so it's just a minor change. So if we are happy with that, I will remove it from the agenda and I will close the issue as soon as the last two pieces are done, basically.
That's good.
Okay. Then I think the next topic in the agenda, well, I think I skipped one. Actually, yeah, I think I skipped one when I was doing the taking the notes on the agenda. So, but are all related. So it's release plan basically. So let's go for the 2022 branch basically. So it's the issue 1001 basically. So let's see how we are in terms of the current branch. Yep.
I can volunteer to the next 22 5.0 because 4.0 is almost ready, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I will include my name there right now. Just
I think 22.4, the proposals there, I think there were just a few issues with the, getting the CI passing as usual.
Mhm.
One of the complications we had on that one was we no longer build 32-bit Windows on main. So one of the patches that landed on main didn't actually, there was a new test that doesn't actually work on 32-bit Windows. So I think for now that's been skipped in Node 22. But again, there's the potential there. Every time we drop a platform from from main, there's a risk then that we won't spot regressions on the earlier release lines until the point we try and backport things to those. So.
Okay. Yeah. I have just updated the list. And I think until there we will have another meeting.
Yeah. I think we have one meeting before that, so should be fine. Yeah, we can try to find new volunteers on the next meeting and see how we are in terms of capabilities, because it's going to be also summer, and I think a lot of people will take some holidays and stuff, so it might be trickier for us. Yeah, let's go to the plans for the 20. Basically is the issue 855.
20 or 18?
20.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Marco was doing the last four of them. Basically.
Yeah, we'll have.
So I did have a discussion with Marco around the last release that went out. There is some Indici regression that didn't get patched.
Yeah.
So if 1619, well, sorry, assuming 1692 or whatever the current Indici version is, assuming that goes out in Node 20, 2240, that's presumably what we want to upgrade to in the next Node 20 release. But yeah, there is some regression that landed a couple of releases ago. So if people have time to do that. I mean, I know Marco did volunteer, but I don't know if that's still, if that still lines up with his schedule or not. But yeah, there's at least an Indici regression that would warrant a 20 release. It just wasn't in a state to land in the release Marco did recently because it hadn't got out in current, and then we were having discussions about whether we could go back to earlier releases, but then that would regress security fixes, and it's a whole complicated scenario. So yeah, that's still outstanding.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Also, it will require like a backporting as well, Richard. Do you know?
So Node 20 does have some version of Indici 16. So I believe the commits should cherry pick across. And the reason we didn't go to 1692 in the last Node 20 release is it hadn't been on a current release. So it would be a huge break for release policy to land 1692 in Node 20 before it had gone out in Node 22. And yeah, there was just question. There were some releases in between, but then it was questionable that there were other regressions in like versions of Indici before 1692, which meant that although the one that's currently in Node 20 was fixed in the later Indici, that version of Indici had some other regression, which was like, well, we don't want to trade one regression for another, and we'd rather sort of fix them up, or well, we'd either revert or fix them up, but then reverting without the question, because reverting would have introduced some of the security vulnerabilities that later Indici is fixed. Node 18 is still on an Indici 5 something, so Node 18 isn't affected. And 20 was just because we try to keep up with with the usual sort of 2 weeks in current rule of thumb.
Okay, sounds good. I think also in terms of volunteers, we don't have any clear volunteer right for the next release for 20, I think, in this forum. So basically, I will try to engage in the next meeting and see if we can get one volunteer for this one, this branch.
Okay. I mean, if you're looking for a release to help prepare Antoine, if you've got time, in the next couple of weeks, that might be one to do, or you can negotiate with Raphael about the 22 release. But if you're looking for something to prepare, that might be.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the suggestion, Richard. I will move ahead. I think last topic in the agenda, at least officially in the agenda, is the 18. So yeah, let's have a look what we have there. Yeah.
I have just realized that Richard released 18.20.3 and the release prepare for the security also prepared 20.3. So I think it's because the 18 branch is not up to date on private. So I've just nuts it and I will need to create another proposal.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always a challenge to make sure we keep private updated or we do security releases.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it was, but I do remember there have been one or two PRs that people were asking if the fixes could land on Node 18. But I didn't think they sound like things that probably should be included if we do a Node 18 release. I didn't think they called themselves out as being we need to do a Node 18 release to include those. So yeah,
If you get the pull request, considering the small release, I think we can include it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is only one pull request, right? Which is the 51,801, if I remember well, because we CP'd something before that was also related to the text testing and something else that I don't remember by heart right now. But yeah, I remember you ship those on a larger release that you did like a couple of months ago, Richard, if I remember well.
yeah. So I'm trying to scan. It'll be one of those with the LTS watch label on.
Oh, let me, Richard, you sent it just to me, I think.
Oh, did I? Okay, no.
Yeah.
I really hate the way Zoom default.
Yeah, and it's different in every Zoom meeting of the same organization, which is tricky.
So some of those in the LTS watch, they either aren't eligible to land yet or they need work. But I'm trying to remember which one it was.
Yeah, I think it might be the second one, like the one like 53,232, I think. That was the one I mentioned, so probably was not included in the last one.
Well, I mean that one I don't think. I mean it would
Yeah.
good to land it, but I don't think that's necessary. So there's the one about the clearing the timeout, but I can't remember if that one hasn't landed in current yet.
Are we talking about
No,
the
sorry.
Sitchin?
That has. Sorry?
Are we talking about the Sitchin issue?
No. We're talking about Node 18.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so I think there's that one, which again is something about clearing timeouts. And okay, and yeah, it was that one. So those two pull requests, could probably go in a Node 18 release, but again, they're not. I don't think we actually have to do an 18 release just to include those. So I'm happy to just suck them up the next time. At some point, we'll have like dependency updates that we'll feel that we should pull in just to keep them updated. I'm assuming at some point there's going to be an OpenSSL. Well, actually, there has been an OpenSSL update, but there hasn't been a quick fork update. So yeah, I don't know. So it's going to be a balancing thing with OpenSSL. But I mean, eventually there'll be npm updates to pull back into Node 18 anyway. So npm callback, all those dependencies could be updated in Node. So I'm prepared to wait until and then do a release maybe next month or maybe even beyond that. But yeah, we don't have a regular schedule now. 18's in maintenance, so it's kind of when people have time and when we think it's worth doing one.
Yep. That's a fair point, Richard. Yeah, we can leave it there until something else happen and we can just put everything together. So that can be a good option.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. I think, yeah. And the last topic in the agenda, I think, is carrying the gold mine, basically. So let's see the latest result, which is 1060.
Yeah, it's been hard to maintain Sitchim, and we all know that
Yep.
Since I became a releaser like a few years ago, Sitchim was always something very difficult to manage. And I don't think we have a solution
Way
for that.
before that. Long time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And I don't think we'll have a way to manage that using the current approach. Honestly, I don't have an ideal solution now, other than drop the failing modules. But I think it touches in different parts of our ecosystem. Like some failures are related to running multiple tasks in parallel, like sharing resources. Some are because the library is not supported by the latest version of Node.js, for instance. I think that currently is very, very hard to rely on that. And honestly, I'm running it on every release just because I want to see the test failing. But I don't think it will give us I don't think it give us any idea, mostly because we have dropped a lot of modules that are constantly failing, and secondly because we are testing different environments and some modules just don't support those environments and they don't update the lookup.json. My suggestion for now is to again drop the modules that are failing often, which is mime, jest, and one more if I remember correctly. I have tried to ping the author, the module author several times if you look to the issue, but I didn't get a reply. And then we create another issue to discuss, possibly in a collab summit, an eventual solution for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. If we do like a deep session on it, maybe in the Collab Summit, we can bring visibility to others, so we can get more engagement, and also to see if we can maybe something that we can re-engineer a little bit. Maybe we need to rethink on how we are doing this test and try to find a different approach. I'm not very sure what's going to be like the path for us in the future. But
I
yeah,
know we took off like the parallel. We used to run like Stitch in parallel mode, so it used to run modules again, at the same time as each other. That shouldn't be happening now because I thought we took that off, so it's running one module at a time. So it should be taking longer to run, but it should only be running one module at a time. There still might be parallelism within the module, I guess. No, but yeah, it's always been
Yeah.
challenging.
I was considering to try a different approach instead of we downloading the package and running the test in our machine. They use in their CI or nightly build, and we consider that nightly build as latest release of Node.js, because if we consider that everything that goes to it doesn't include several
It
major.
it won't work for like non the non-current releases because the nightlies are only for main, and even that I don't. Main is more, current and main are very similar, but they could always diverge.
Yeah.
Oui?
I'd just like to point out that we kind of tried already to brainstorm and raise awareness in a bunch of times in the last few collab summit. Like I just kept going that it will work this time. So what I have in my mind right now, I'd really like us to try maybe something, different, like something maybe like Rafael was saying, right? Like be more aggressive, like let's prune a lot of packets that are not working. But also like I think fundamentally, like we really need to get SitGim to be something that is way, way faster and leaner than what we have right now, so that we could potentially run on every pull request. Because the problem is that like it's just running sometimes like that puts all the ownership in the and of a few releases, right? Like we already are struggling to deal with the releases. So we need it to be like every collaborator is kind of running it in their pull request and they're owning that failure. It happens with them. So I really think we need to kind of like put the house down and rebuild and try to have a smaller thing that can work actually. Yeah. Just my 2 cents.
It's always challenging with like the runtime because an individual module might decide it's okay if their tests run for X amount of time, and then the problem is you add them all up, and they'll run. Well, I mean, I remember like Jest, for example. I think that's still timing out, even though options were added to extend SitGim. I mean, SitGim does have a default timeout for tests, and then an option was added to make that even longer for certain modules. But again, it's like maybe that module.
Yeah, it's unsustainable. Anytime that something like that happens, we should just prune the module. Like, okay, you're not allowed to be here. This is,
And I know,
stricter. Otherwise, the whole system falls down.
I know someone, I think it was at the Collab Summit. They said that part of the problem with SitGim is we run it in Jenkins, and then that has a completely, that's an environment that people don't have access to, or it's different from modules running their own testing on Actions. I think we do have the ability to run SitGim in the SitGim repo via a GitHub action. And maybe that might be something to concentrate on. Like if we can get SitGim in some state, just in like Linux or whatever on GitHub Actions, and then start there, and then possibly consider if we still need to run it on every other platform. I mean, we always have weird oddities like Windows and like big Indian platforms that but if the concern is like modules find it very difficult to keep running on all these different node versions, then maybe if we can start with in theory, if we get this running in GitHub Actions, then and we're not trying to go through too many different hoops. I mean, one of the reasons that we were saying it needs to be testable via npm test is we don't want huge custom scripts per module. But yeah, if there was something more reproducible, I guess, in terms of we've run SitGim in this manner and it's failing, and you should be able to do the same thing because it's running on a GitHub runner, which should be relatively.
Yeah, I have the impression I have the impression the NPM team got SitGim running on GitHub Actions. I might reach out and try to figure out like if it's actually a thing they've done. And
no, I think we've got the ability. We've got the ability to do that. I think in the current SitGim repo, I think there is a workflow that you can manually kick off.
Oh, nice. So and it's also running in the GitHub Actions compute.
I think you need to manually kick it, but I can't remember. It may only be running on like certain versions of Node. It's whatever's in the workflow. But you could, for example, request SitGim to run against like a new. If someone wanted to add a module, you could do it via GitHub Actions. You could say run SitGim for this module, and it would spit out some result.
Yeah. No, but I think you're right. Like the important thing is having that example that we can just like, okay, tell the maintainer, you can copy and paste this into your repo so that you're running it yourself, and then you can kind of like know ahead of time.
I mean, it's always difficult because the idea of Sitchin was never we'll never break anyone. It was always we want to know that if a breakage is occurring, is that because we've done something deliberate, or is it oh it's breaking but we didn't realize it would break? So is that a problem or not? So sometimes it is. Sometimes something's landed and it's caused modules to break, and we think well actually we weren't intending to cause that amount of ecosystem disruption. And sometimes it's, yeah, we've changed something and this is a change in behavior and, this module needs to be updated for that whatever reason. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's always difficult. And yeah, we've never had a good solution for this. It's always been a challenge. And I think in the past, it's been heavily reliant on people to go in, have a look at the results and update the lookup. I know in the past, we've been more aggressive in dropping modules and then let it slide for a bit and then have another burst of dropping modules and then it slides again. So yeah.
Yeah. I think I mean, just side note, if we can do something small, like a fast prototype on it, like if we can have it as a GitHub action, that's a fair point. I think that's super good if we can have it on pull request, even if we don't run in Jenkins, right? That's just by having like at least running with the official runners, that can be nice. Also, maybe something that we can approach is to have like a two different kind of list, like the ones of the libraries that we know that are fine and the maintainers are responsible for what's going on or kind of, and the others that are kind of maybe
So,
it's
so,
because
so Sitgem already allows you to, when you run Sitgem, you can pass in an option to point to a lookup. So, it happens to pick up source lookup, is it lib lookup? Whatever the directory is, lookup.json as the default. But you can always tell Sitgem to run some other lookup. So Sitgem already will allow that. That does require you to create another lookup, but I mean, that is an option. We also have the ability to tag modules in the lookup. So, there's the option of running Sitgem on a subset of the lookup if they're tagged in a certain way. So that's also an option. But again, it requires someone to come up with the list or list or subset or something. So it's going to require time, I think, or some thinking about how to actually to do that. I mean, if we could get it to a state where it was passing, and that's always been the holy grail that we've never got to, you could then theoretically have some automated flow that says, and if anything fails, either it's an automatic PR to remove, and then we evaluate whether it's actually should be removed or it's actually some other problem that needs to be fixed. But if it's an automatic removal rather than someone having to go in and manually look at things, I mean that's the thing. If we could ever get it passing, then in theory you could have automation that says, well, if this passing state ever changes, that means something needs to be done. Whereas at the moment, the difficulty we always have is it's always failing, so we have no idea if it's even changed without a lot of a lot of time spent parsing through everything.
That's a fair point. I mean, if we make it green, I think most of the challenges that we have will start to suddenly disappear, right? And we can enter more solutions. So if we are more aggressive, right? If we are more aggressive on deleting modules, then we can get a better results and the tool become reliable. So because right now, I think as it is right now is an issue when you build a release, at least in my experience. But yeah, so it's super challenging to check. So if we can
I mean,
have something
the biggest problem we always have with it is it does find problems that we've had to fix Node for. So it's the reason that we've persisted with it, even despite all the pain, is that it has caught things that unfortunately the Node test suite doesn't catch. So yeah, it's Anyway, if people have ideas or, even if it is to just either start a new lookup or start tagging things in the lookup, we can discuss.
Okay. That's good for...
Yeah, I mean, the GitHub Action things is an idea just for reproducibility. I'm not sure it would necessarily be faster. I mean, if anything, it could be slower because depending on what machines you're running on, and I know that they'll probably have less CPUs than some of the stuff in Jenkins, although the stuff in Jenkins, it really depends on the platform as to what kind of machine it is. So different machines run at different speeds through. And then you've always got the problem that, you know, because the things in situ are installed from the registry, the npm registry, that you've got the network bandwidth anyway. So a lot of the time is installing, and then the rest of the time is running.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I think that was all for the official agenda. There is anything else that we want to discuss? Okay, I think then it's like the official end of the meeting. So I give you back like 50 minutes. So that's always nice. Okay.
Thank
See
you.
you soon.
Bye.